Okay, hey you guys, I wanted to come on and preface this video a little bit. You're going to hear me talking about Instagram a lot because I originally made this video for Instagram and I did post it on my IGTV. A lot of my followers requested that I put it on Instagram instead of YouTube, but then I thought, well, I might as well do both. So if you're hearing me talk about a lot of Instagram terms like link in my bio and stuff like that, it's because this video was originally posted on my Instagram. You can still find it there. But I wanted to share it here too in case anyone who's not following me on Instagram is looking for it. This is all about how I planned my first lesson with Outschool and what my process is. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. My email is linked down below, and you can also follow me on Instagram and send me a direct message. I would be happy to answer any questions you have. I have also linked in the description box. I have a link for parents if you're looking to enroll your student or learner in a class. You get a $20 credit for your first class. And I also have a link if you are interested in applying to become a teacher. It is a referral link and I'm happy to help you along the way. Just let me know. And I hope you enjoy this video. Okay, you guys, as promised, I am here to give you all the insight into how I planned my first class with Outschool. I recently got hired and I have submitted 2 courses at this point. One of them has been approved. I'm waiting on the other. I have not taught a class yet, but I have my first class in 3 days. I have 4 classes scheduled so far for this coming week, and 3 of the 4 have fully booked at this point, which is really exciting. And I wanted to share with you how I was able to plan my own lesson. I know that's the scary part of working with Outschool, is how much time is it going to take, and how do you even come up with the ideas of what to do, and how do you stand out? So that's where I thought that it would be nice to kind of show you guys what my process was, because maybe it could help you. I am not a teacher. If you haven't seen my stories prior to this, I am not a teacher. I actually just a mom. I got a degree in mass communication, but since having children, I have learned a lot of things that I enjoy. Doodling, anything play-based. I love teaching my kids about really fun topics like space and dinosaurs and the human body and all of these things that don't come natural. I have to learn as I go. So I wanted to show what I did for planning my lesson, because again, it's not something that's natural. I've never planned a lesson in my life. So this was how I was able to do it. So first things first is I had to come up with what kind of age range I thought that I wanted to teach. And for me, I know that my niche is right where the 4 to 6-year-olds are. With VIPKid, I love level 1. I'm a very high energy person. I know where my strengths lie and where they do not. And for me, I feel like I do better with the younger crowd. That may not be the case for you, but that's perfectly fine. You can still be very creative and think of ways to entertain your older students as well. So for me, maybe I should just silence this. For me, I maybe had it a little easy because my daughter is 4, and I went based on what I know she is interested in. My daughter loves space. Anything to do with the solar system. She's obsessed with Jupiter. I hopefully plan on doing a specific class on Jupiter, because she's 4.5 and she knows so much about the planet Jupiter. It is mind-blowing. And I know that any other 4-year-old or 6-year-old can learn the exact same kind of things that she knows about that topic, and it will resonate with the parents. And that's my goal, is to have classes where the students learn, they have a lot of fun, but they learn a lot, and it resonates with the parents and they want to keep coming back for more. So I knew that space was a topic that I wanted to teach. Now there's a lot of ways you can go with that, and I did my research and I made sure to go onto Outschool and to search in the search box for space classes. I looked up classes, I typed in solar system, I typed in space, astronaut, rockets, planets, constellations. I did my research and I looked up anything and everything that I could on space and what classes people had available, because what's very important with Outschool is that you don't want to be the same. You want to stand out. You want to be creative, and you want to offer something that nobody else is offering. So after I looked at everything, I noticed that there really were no classes on astronauts. There were a lot of older classes available for tons of subjects in space. But for me, when it comes to the 4 to 6 year old age range, there's a line. 4 to 6 year olds, yes, my daughter knows an insane amount of things about space that you would never think a 4-year-old would know. But you also have to know like where that line is, and where it becomes learning things that maybe like the 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds should be learning, and not a 4 to 6 year old. So I decided to do something on astronauts. I knew that that was going to be my main topic for my first class. And I began to do a ton of research on astronauts. And that included looking up what astronauts do in space. How do you become an astronaut? Like literally, how do you become an astronaut? What are the qualifications that an astronaut has? Like schooling, all of that. Obviously, 4 to 6 year olds don't need to know how many years of college or experience an astronaut needs to have prior to becoming an astronaut. But for me, I want to be as educated on the topic as possible. And so I did research on that. I researched what food they eat in space. What do they wear? Their spacesuit. What all does that include? Obviously, you know what it looks like, but like, what all does it do for the astronauts? I looked up how astronauts get to space. Obviously, you know it's a rocket, but I went further into that and looked more into orbiters and space shuttles and how the rocket separates and all kinds of crazy things. So that would be my first suggestion is, obviously, there are maybe some topics that you are already an expert on and that you have a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share with others. Maybe you have something that you find to be fun and exciting, like me. Space, astronauts, fun and exciting for me and my daughter, but I don't know everything. I'm not an expert, but I want to be an expert as much as I can for that age range. So that's why I learned more than what I'm going to teach. So I did a lot of research on that and found out a lot. And for me, I thought, okay, with this information, what would my 4-year-old love to know about all of that? And I immediately knew that she would want to know, how does an astronaut poop in space? Sounds funny, and it is, but I'm like, that's gotta be a question of hers. Like, where do they go to the bathroom? Where do they go to the bathroom? How do they sleep? How do they eat? How do they do all of these things? And you know, like, I want to be an astronaut. When you're 4, when you're 5, you want to be an astronaut. Of course, that's an aspiration of yours to be an astronaut. And so I thought about all of these things, and I wanted to bring it to life. So I decided to do an astronaut training course for 4 to 6 year olds, how to become an astronaut. And it would focus on different missions in order to have them learn different topics about astronauts, including the history, how they travel, what they do in space, and also including fun topics like what kind of animals have been to space. I learned a lot so that I knew what information about astronauts would be most appealing to 4 to 6 year olds. So that's also why I suggest you doing a ton of research on your topic if you're not already an expert on it. And so after that, I just took literally, I don't even know where it is. Okay, I found it. Sorry. Also, my children are howling downstairs, so hopefully you can't hear any of that. So, anyways, while I was researching, I went through and wrote down a ton of information. Anything that I felt like would be maybe interesting to add into my class. Now, as far as how long it took me to do my research, I took probably 30 minutes, I would say. I didn't do a ton, but like, I learned more than I knew prior. There were certain things that I needed to go into more detail about research-wise, but that's really as long as I took was 30 minutes, just to make sure that I had a grasp on like a lot of different topics in regards to astronauts. So now this is not like organized in any specific way. This is not my lesson plan. These are just notes, strictly notes. So after I did that, I went through and I looked at all of my notes and I picked out the top 5 subjects that I felt like would be a hit, like an absolute hit with 4 to 6 year olds. What do 4 to 6 year olds want to know? And so I picked those out and I kind of ordered them in regards to if I were to structure a class based off of these 5 things, what order would they need to go in? And so from there I decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with what is an astronaut. Obviously children have an idea of what an astronaut is, but let's kind of take it a little bit further and ask, what is an astronaut? What all do they do when they get to space? What are they doing in space? We know what an astronaut is. We know they go to space, but what do they do in space? So that was the first thing that I felt like would be a good introduction to the topic and where I was going to lead the class. So from there I had to decide what all I was going to include in that first section about what is an astronaut. So we were going to talk about what is an astronaut, obviously, what do they do in space, how do they eat in space, how do they pee in space, how do they poop in space, how do they sleep in space, basically the basics of an astronaut. And I was going to use that as my first section of the class. Then I went back to my list and decided, okay, what's the next thing that would be a great topic to squeeze in underneath of what is an astronaut? And I decided that that would be about space shuttles and rockets and orbiters, and how do astronauts get to space? So we know what an astronaut is. We know what they do in space. How do they get there? And so I would teach them all that I could in a short amount of time about rockets and space shuttles and orbiters, and keep it in the educational age range of 4 to 6, but also make it fun and maybe some things that they didn't know prior, because you want them to learn something from your class. So after that, I went to the next thing and I thought to myself, okay, I have 30 minutes to teach this class. I probably can squeeze in like one more topic, and because I do plan on making activities for these sections. So my third section will be about animals in space. That was one of the things that I had researched about what animals have been sent to space, why we sent animals to space, and I thought that that would be really, really interesting to kids. So I knew that that was going to be number 3. And after I had these sections, I was looking at them and I decided, okay, I'm doing an astronaut training course. I'm going to call them missions. Let's go ahead and take this another level. Let's go ahead and make this relevant to what we're doing here. And it's a training course on how to become an astronaut. We're going to have 3 missions. The first mission is to find out what is an astronaut, what do they do in space, how do they eat in space, all of that about an astronaut. The second mission is going to be to learn about space shuttles and orbiters and rockets. The third mission is going to be learning about animals in space and what animal astronauts have been since the beginning of time that we have sent anything and everything out into space. So I thought that that would be really fun to make it into a mission-based course. And so I had my topics. I knew what order they were going to go in and what exactly the details were going to be for each of those sections. So then I had to decide, okay, how am I going to make this class stand out? I have to have a way for my kids to participate in the class, and for me to make it play-based, because that's where my passion is. That's where I love teaching, is by making it play-based. And so how do you do that virtually? It's difficult, right? But it's not that difficult. So I decided that I would look at I went onto Pinterest and I looked at a ton of space-themed activities. And I kind of favorited a bunch of them that I thought, okay, like I could maybe do this virtually. And I did. I found a couple of options that ended up being hopefully something really fun for my students. So being that my daughter has actually taken a few Outschool classes, I have been able to see what other teachers do in their class, which is an advantage for me. If you have a child, I highly suggest having your child take some classes so that you can get a feel for what a typical Outschool class is like. And so I was able to see some of the things that other teachers bring into their classroom. A lot of teachers do coloring and painting and things like that. And I came across a lot of, while I was on Pinterest, I came across a lot of activity pages, coloring pages that were space themed. And I knew that being that kids are 4 to 6, having them color an entire coloring sheet in like a minute to 2 minutes wasn't going to happen. So what I did is I actually saw, oh no, let me find it. Okay, here we go. So I saw a lot like this, but Crayola has this kind of coloring sheet right here, which I thought was really cute. And I loved how it had their faces inside of the astronaut helmets. And I thought to myself, okay, if they're not going to be able to color an entire sheet in that small amount of time, what can I have them do? What if I have them draw their own faces inside of an astronaut helmet? And so what I did is I took that idea and I ran with it. And I use Canva Pro. I use Canva Pro for so many things. If you do not subscribe and pay for Canva Pro, you are missing out. I'm telling you, $15 every 3 months is the cost for it. And it provides me with so much. I use it for everything, My Instagram stories, for making my Pinterest pins, for my blogs, for my blog posts, for my Instagram posts on Instagram. What? On Outschool. Like I did all of my pictures for Outschool that are like the class descriptions. Canva. And I made a coloring sheet. But what they're going to do is they're not going to color this during class. They are going to draw their faces inside of the astronaut helmet at the beginning of class. And then if they would like to finish coloring it at the end of class on their own time, they're more than welcome. They're more than welcome to do so. But I made this from scratch. I mean, not from scratch. They give me elements and stuff, and I just kind of put it all together. There's a lot that you can do on Canva Pro. It is such a great tool to have. If you don't have it, try out Canva. Try out Canva, the free version. And there's just enough on there to do, even if you feel like you don't use it enough to do the Pro. But if you are like me and you have a ton of different things that you can utilize it for, the Pro is the way to go. So this is one of the play-based things that I'm going to do for this class, and each student will be able to draw their face inside of the astronaut mask, and it will be at the beginning of class to get the class started. And so then I was looking at other activities, and so that's my first mission, obviously, is what is an astronaut. My second mission is how do astronauts, I can't even talk anymore. I've been talking too much. How do astronauts get to space? Where we talk about space shuttles and all of that. And if you're a mom or a dad, I'm sure maybe you've seen the activity where you can do their name. You can make a rocket ship with their name. So I'm using Teacher Kaylee's daughter here. She's in my Monday class, and so I made hers already. But so each parent will get a handout like this. Again, made this on Canva. Guys, made these on Canva from scratch. You can do it. This is how you stand out. Canva. Okay. So you, each parent will get a personalized one with their child's name. And prior to class, I made it clear that they needed to cut out where the black lines are on the rocket, because they are going to put their pieces in order of their name and glue them onto the sheet while we are talking about what space shuttles are and how astronauts get to space. And so this is another quick and easy activity that I'm going to have them do, and it throws in putting their names down and knowing how to spell their name. Okay, so that is my short play-based activity for mission number 2. If you remember, my mission number 3 is to talk about animals that have been to space. And so for that one, I have invited all of my learners to bring a stuffed animal or a picture of a stuffed animal to class. And I will have them all show what animals they chose and to ask them what they think if maybe they brought like a stuffed alligator and say, what would you think if an alligator went to space? And that would be how we'll talk about all of the animals that have previously been to space before. And then each student is able to show off what they have and to talk about how funny it would be, what animal they would like to see go to space. Anything in that realm, because again, this class is only 30 minutes, so I have to make it jam-packed, but enough that 4 to 6 year olds can keep up, and it's entertaining, engaging, fun, and it resonates. It resonates with them, it resonates with the parents. You stand out, you look like you've put the work in, and I did. I put the work in. Now, I definitely realized that this is my first class that I planned, and it took me 2 solid hours to do all of this. I didn't do it all in one setting at one time. I actually did it over a couple of days when I could squeeze in 30 minutes. But I know for a fact that this class is going to be bomb and that it's going to be one that keeps happening over and over. I know this because it hasn't even started yet, and I've already sold out over half of my classes. And yeah, 3 out of 4 of my classes are fully booked right now. So that's like mind-blowing. So you have to put in the work for sure, but over time, that amount of time that you put in is going to decrease, just like it does with VIPKid, just like I talked about in my stories prior. The amount of time will decrease because it will become easier, you'll be more familiar, you'll know what you're doing. I am over-prepared at this point. I want to be over-prepared. I do not want to be under-prepared. And this is how I have planned my lesson. And do I know exactly what I'm going to like say word for word? No, I don't. But I have bullet points, I have my topics, I have my missions. I know the main points of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to have fun. And that's my number one goal, is for myself to have fun so that my learners can have fun. So I hope that this is maybe a little insightful for you guys. I really enjoy doing things like this. Obviously, if you've seen my blog, this is the kind of stuff that I'm really passionate about and why I really like Outschool, that it gives me the opportunity to showcase that and to teach at the same time. So if you're interested in Outschool or if you have further questions, please send me a message. I've got 2 links in my bio. One of them is a link for parents if you would like a free Outschool class for your child, and the other one is a link if it's a referral link if you're interested in applying to teach. Please use it, and I'm happy to help you along the way. But that is it for now, and if you guys are interested, also let me know if you want to see how I planned my other lessons, and I'm happy to do that also. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. I'm gonna go. Goodbye.